Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's virtual read aloud with Miss Starkey. We're going to continue with Out of My Mind, and we are going to begin today, chapter 32. Okay, so just wanted to go over a couple of points from what's happened in the previous chapters. We learned that Penny was hit by a car. She was injured, but she's recovering in the hospital, and she'll be okay. But we also learned that Melody is feeling guilty because she wasn't able to stop the accident. She tried to stop the accident. She tried to warn her mom, but because of her disabilities, she wasn't able to communicate what she was trying to say. So those are just a few key points of what was happening before the chapter we're going to read today. Okay. All right. So for our pre-write today, I want you guys to think about a time when you were brave and you spoke up to someone to defend yourself. Okay, so something wasn't right. Maybe it was a family member, maybe it was a friend, and you were able to speak up for yourself. You were able to defend yourself when you weren't treated fairly or when something was wrong. And I want you to think about, how did you feel before you communicated and told that person how you felt, and how did you feel after? Okay, so I'll give you guys just a couple of minutes to write down some of your thoughts about speaking up and defending yourself. And is there anybody that would like to share their thoughts? Anybody want to share how they felt before and after they were able to speak up for themselves? Nobody today on this? Okay, well, I was thinking that when I wrote this pre-write question, that in the past when I have been able to speak up and defend myself, that right before I was able to communicate, I felt nervous because it's really hard to speak up. It's really hard to tell someone how you feel, especially when you're in an uncomfortable situation. And I know that I would feel nervous and anxious right before I said what I wanted to say. But oftentimes I find that afterwards, I actually feel better because I was able to get it out. I was able to get my feelings out and I wasn't holding them inside. So does anybody, just by a raise of hand, has anybody ever felt that way? Maybe they were a little nervous to speak up, but then afterwards, they actually felt better that they were able to tell that person and get it out. Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. Someone want to say something?
He was just agreeing.
Oh, okay, perfect. Okay, wonderful. Okay. Oops. Okay, so just a review of what inferencing is. Inferencing is when you make an educated guess using your background knowledge, everything you have up in your brain already, all the smart things that you know, and what you learn from the text, okay, to infer. And I know we've been working a lot on that lately. I just wanted to review it just briefly. Okay, so before we start the chapter, some things, if you don't already have it, hopefully you do from your pre-write, have something to write with and a piece of paper to write on. Make sure that you are listening. There's a lot of important things that happen in this chapter. If you're live, make sure that if you want to share, we're taking turns. Take notes to look back at if you need to. And then pause the video anytime to answer questions. Okay, so we'll kind of stop as we go if you are live, but if you aren't live, you can pause anytime that you need to. Okay? So your thinking job for this chapter before we begin is to think about Melody's feelings and reaction when she finally gets the chance to confront her teammates. Kind of going back to that pre-write. How did she feel leading up to confronting them, and then how did she feel and how did she react and what happens when she finally was able to get her feelings out. Okay? All right, so let's pull up the chapter. All right. Okay. It is Monday morning, so I have to return to school today. The temperature has dropped and the sun is glowing like some kind of frosted golden jewel. Yet everything feels different and not quite right. Okay, so there was another kind of reference to the weather. Ms. Green talked about that, and now we see that the sun is glowing. Okay, so you can see that change in that weather. So I'm already thinking that this might be a better day. Mom spent the weekend at the hospital with Penny, sleeping on a cot in her room. I have not seen her since everything changed. I wonder if Mom is mad at me. Mrs. V comes over and helps me get dressed and fed. Even Butterscotch seems to miss Penny. She puts her head in my lap and looks at me with lonely eyes. I can't help her. Dad is a mess. He keeps dropping things like forks and keys. He starts to talk, then forgets what he was going to say. He hasn't shaved. Go and get yourself together, Chuck, Mrs. V finally tells him. A hot shower and cold glass of orange juice will do you wonders. When you go see Penny this morning, you don't want to scare the child, do you? You're right, Dad replies. You've got Melody covered? I'll see that she gets on the bus. Now scoot. He bounds up the stairs to the bathroom. Penny better? I tap on my board. Yes, oh yes. When I spoke to your mom this morning, she told me that they have taken her off the IV already. Penny was eating applesauce, complaining about her cast, and asking for doodle, which I've got cleaned up and ready for her. Penny is going to be fine, Melody, just fine. I inhale deeply. Mrs. V spoons eggs into my mouth, but my stomach roils with worry. Her leg? I ask. Her leg is in a cast. It's big and clunky and will annoy the heck out of her, but the doctors have said that when she gets stronger, she'll even be able to walk with it. I'm glad. Mrs. V is always straight up with me. Wheelchair? I can't think of anything worse than a teeny baby wheelchair. No, they want her to move around as much as possible. I breathe a sigh of relief. Her head, I ask? Mrs. V understands. No brain damage, Melody, none. I exhale slowly. You sure? I spell out. Absolutely. I saw her myself last night. She bumped her head when she fell, but the car hit her leg. It didn't touch her head at all. The school bus honks then, so Mrs. V wheels me down the drive to meet it. She checks my backpack, adjusts my foot straps, and gives me a big hug. You ready, Melody? Ready to face the quiz team? I nod. After what had almost happened, facing a bunch of snotty fifth graders will be easy. Gus looks at me with concern as he lowers the bus lift. How's your little sister? He asks me. That is so scary. Gonna be okay, I type. Thanks. I realize right then that news like that travels fast. Everybody at school will probably know as well. Gus wheels me onto the lift and pushes the button to raise it as I wave goodbye to Mrs. V. The ride to school is strangely quiet. None of the usual squeaks and grunts from the students who ride this special bus. When we get to school, the air is chilly, so the aides take us directly to room H5. As we get settled, I look at my friends through different eyes. Freddie, who wants to zoom to the moon. Ashley, our fashion model. Willie, the baseball expert. Maria, who has no enemies. Gloria, the music lover. Carl, our resident gourmet. Jill, who might have once been like Penny. Not one of them even knows how to be mean. And there's me, the dreamer, who tries to escape room H5, a kid with a computer named Elvira. I don't even know where I belong anymore. Catherine comes in then, wearing a new outfit that is actually cute and stylish. Tan slacks, black sweater, and a vest. Nice outfit, I tell her. Thanks, I did it all by myself. I have something for you. I point to my book bag. She reaches into my bag, digs around, and finds the card that almost led to tragedy. After she reads it, she blinks back tears. No, Melody, thank you. She leans over and hugs me. Then she looks serious and says, Mrs. Valencia called and told me all about what happened with your little sister. How is she doing? Better, I type. You know, you probably saved her life, Catherine tells me. What? Seriously, your screaming and yelling slowed your mother down, gave her time to figure out why you were acting like you had hot potatoes in your pants. So I wanted to stop there for just a second because there was another really good example of figurative language, okay? I highlighted it there in yellow, and it says, it gave her time to figure out why you were acting like you had hot potatoes in your pants. What do you think that means? What does it mean if she was saying that Melody was acting like she had hot potatoes in her pants when Penny got hit? Angel, what do you think?
I think that she tried to stop her mom.
Do you remember how she tried to stop her mom? What was she actually doing
Isaac's
when?
raising his hand.
Oh, okay.
She was like she had like something hot, or she was like mad, or if she had like she was trying to tell her mom.
Okay. All right. There's some good thoughts. Isaac?
I think that she was telling her mom to stop like going back, or the mom can injure Penny more, so she's like trying to tell her to stop.
Right. And when she was trying to tell her to stop, remember she was like flailing her arms and moving around and kicking. Okay. Kind of like, how would you feel if you had a hot potato that came out of the oven and somebody put it down your pants? Would you be jumping around and screaming?
Yes, I would.
Yeah. I would too. So that was kind of a way that they compared the way that Melody acted about trying to warn her mom to if you had hot potatoes in your pants. But
Leah, sorry, I'm totally interrupting, but Leah wrote in the little chat, she said she tried to help by screaming because if there was something hot in your pants, you would scream.
oh, perfect. Thank you. I couldn't see that chat box, so thanks for sharing. That's exactly right. That's exactly what I was thinking too. So it's just a really good example there, and kind of funny to me actually, of using the author using figurative language. Okay, so we'll go ahead and continue on. Thank you for sharing, everybody. Could not stop mom. I stab out on my machine. You did exactly the right thing. I'm so proud of you. Really? Really? Especially after all you had been through at the airport? You want to talk about it? No, I type and look away. Maria comes over to my chair and gives me a big hug. You did good, Melly Belly, she says. Real good. I'm not sure if she is talking about the quiz team or something else, but my eyes get all drippy and my nose starts to run. I wish I could give her a big squeeze back to let her know how good she has made me feel, but I just tap out thanks. I'm never sure how much Freddie is aware of what is going on in the world around him, so he surprises me when he zips over to me and asks, Melly go Zoom in plane? He looks excited, maybe even envious. No, Freddie, I type, no plane, no Zoom. His face scrunches up into sadness, and then he drives away. Mrs. Shannon comes over next and squats beside me. Your head must be near, about ready to explode from all that has happened in the past few days. Boom, I type. But I don't feel like smiling. Let's talk at lunch, okay, Melody? Okay. Are you going to your inclusion classes? She asks. Yes, I tap. I thought about this all weekend when I wasn't thinking about Penny. I decided I was not going to hide. So stop right there. And she decided that even though her teammates did what they did to her, she wasn't going to hide from them. So I wanted to ask you what your thoughts about that were. What are your thoughts about Melody not wanting to hide from them? Isaac, what do you think?
I think she's not gonna be afraid of them anymore. Like to tell them the truth.
Right, she's not afraid. I would characterize that as her being very brave. Because even her mom and her dad were like, you just stay home, don't deal with them. But she's making herself to be brave and not hide from them. Any other thoughts? Checking through, make sure.
Leah
All right.
Leah says she doesn't care and she doesn't want to quit.
Perfect.
Maybe she doesn't care about what others are thinking.
Right, and she doesn't want to quit or hide from them. Not when I think of not quitting, I think of not quitting those friendships, not quitting those relationships, because the only way to get past this is to confront them. I want you to know I'm very proud of you. She gives me a big thumbs up. Let's see. And then gets our morning routine going. As it turns out, Mrs. Gordon is absent today. So the first inclusion class I'm set to attend is Mr. Demings. Are you sure you want to go? Catherine asks me. Instead of answering, I power my chair toward Mr. D's door. Catherine rests a hand on my shoulder as I whir in. A small brass colored trophy sits on Mr. D's desk. The room is quieter than normal. Now remember, this is the first time she's seen them since they left her. Mr. Deming clears his throat. He shifts from one foot to the other. He runs his finger around the collar of his dim white shirt. He's back to his old, well-worn brown suit, his old shoes as well. Finally, he says, "Hello, Melody." His voice sounds fake cheerful. I do not reply. So he says hello to Melody and he greets her, but she says it sounds fake cheerful. What do you think that means? Fake cheerful.
Is DeRay still on? DeRay, you here with us?
Yeah.
I want to hear your thoughts on this fake cheerful. I want you guys to think about like if your friends are being fake when they say hi. What does that look like?
To pretend to be someone they're not.
Like show us your real hey, DeRay.
Hey!
Now show us your fake hey, like you're not actually excited.
Hey!
That was good. I could hear the difference. I could tell. Very good. Now, I'm thinking that Mr. Deming sounded fake cheerful because he knows what's about to come. He knows how uncomfortable this is about to get. So, he wiggles so much, he looks like he has to go to the bathroom. I just watch him. No kicks from me. No weird sounds. I am amazingly calm. Oops, I lost it. I glance over at Rose, but she is looking in the other direction. No one seems to know what to say. At last, I break the silence. I turn the volume up loud on my machine, then type out, "Why did you leave me?" Somebody should have been there with a video camera proving that, yes, a fifth grade classroom can be absolutely, totally quiet. They didn't know what to say. Faces search other faces, each one willing another to speak. Eventually, Rose stands up. She looks directly at me and says, "We didn't plan to leave you, Melody, honest." I look her dead in the eye and wait. I don't react at all. I just wait. She continues, "We all went out to breakfast early that morning." I interrupt. "Nobody told me about that. How come?" None of them answer. Their silence says what their words cannot. It is better without me. I blink real fast. Claire finally stammers, "Well, we figured you'd slow us down because you have to be fed and stuff." It's so quiet. I swear I can hear my own heartbeat. And she types this, "Well, you threw up and nobody left you. Oh, snap, I hear Rodney whisper. Claire stares down at her desk. Who took my place? Claire lifts her hand slightly, but she won't look at me. Rose scrapes at a spot on her history book. We finished breakfast really fast because we're all excited, so we got to the airport extra early. Connor stands up then. He looks uncomfortable. So when we got to the airport, they told us that the noon flight had just been canceled, but that we could make the early flight if we hurried. Molly speaks next. So we checked our stuff real fast, then rushed. We ran like track stars. Even Mr. Deming, down to the gate to get that early flight. Nobody thought about me? I ask. Silence again. Finally, Elena says, I did. I was the first one to board the plane. Just as I gave my boarding pass to the agent, I reminded Mr. Deming that you were missing. Mr. Deming again twists from one foot to the other. I was so busy trying to count heads and check seat assignments and deal with everybody's carry-on bags. So I asked the kids to call you at home. I knew Rose, at least, had your number in her cell phone. All eyes shift to Rose. She looks at the floor, then slowly she looks at me. A tear runs down her cheek. You couldn't have made it there in time anyway. I picked up my phone to call you. I flipped it open. Then I looked at the rest of the kids on the team. He pauses. I could imagine them standing there, thinking about the chance to be on Good Morning America with that huge trophy. And me. Rose continues in a whisper. We looked at each other. Everybody made just a tiny head shake. No. All of them? I shiver. Rose sniffles and whispers finally. So I closed the phone and we got on the plane. I never made that call. How can silence be so loud? Mr. Deming finally says quietly, I'm so very sorry, Melody. So sorry. Rose bursts into tears and puts her head down on her desk. So I wanted to ask you guys, now we've just learned that Rose was the one that was responsible for calling her. And she admits she never made that call. So why do you think, let's infer, why do you think Rose then burst into tears and puts her head on her desk? Isaac, what do you think?
I think because she made a big mistake not calling her.
Yeah, she made a mistake. Anybody else have any thoughts? Josiah?
Maybe she's laying her head down like that because maybe she feels bad for leaving her.
Right, she's feeling bad now. Okay, Michaela, what do you think? Oh, no. Michaela, I know she had her hand up.
Sorry, it was my brother.
Oh, it's okay.
I think that she cried because she's really the one that is Melody's friend.
Right. She's thinking about that relationship, and that, just like everybody else that's mentioned said, that she realized now she made a mistake. Okay, so she's probably feeling bad and guilty. Okay, any other thoughts? Did I miss anybody?
Leah wrote in the group chat that was her friend and she feels really bad about it.
Right. So I know in the past I've made a decision that I thought made sense at the time, but then later on I realized that it was a mistake. Okay, and I realized I made the wrong choice, and I think you're right. That's what Rose is feeling right now. Just before the competition, Molly explains, a reporter from the Washington Post came to interview the team, but he left when he found out that you weren't there. Connor walks up to the front of the room, then picks up the 9th place trophy and brings it to me. He stammers and licks his lips. The team kind of wants you to have this, Melody, sort of to make up. He places it on my tray. The thing is small, made of cheap plastic that has been painted to look like metal. The name of the school is even spelled wrong on the faceplate. I look, uh-oh, my computer just lost all the words. Hold on. Sorry. All right. The thing is small, made of cheap plastic that has been painted to look like metal. The name of the school is even spelled wrong on the faceplate. I look at the ugly little statue and I start to giggle. Then I crack up. Finally, I roll with laughter. My hand jerks out and hits the trophy. I'm not sure if it was an accident or not, and it falls to the floor, breaking into several pieces. The class stares at me in surprise. When they see that I'm not going to go ballistic on them, they finally start to laugh as well, a little. Even Rose sniffs and smiles. I don't want it, I finally type. Then turning the volume as loud as it will go, I add, you deserve it. Still laughing, I click on the power to my chair, do a smooth turn, and roll myself out of the classroom. So, if you remember back at the beginning, before we started reading, I want you to think about what her reaction was and how she handled confronting them. What do you think? What do you think about what just happened? Isaac, did you have a thought?
Yes, I think she she did the right thing to stand up for her own self.
Right? She did. And that's exactly what happened. She stood up for herself. Michaela, what do you think?
I think that she was being really honest, and she was mad at first, but when she got to the end, she got honest.
Right. She was very honest with them and how she was feeling.
You
Okay.
have DeRay raising her hand.
DeRay?
Just unmute your, oh, you didn't mean to?
My hand is raised.
Oh yeah, you did. Was it an accident? Leah said she didn't want anyone to feel guilty, and she stood up and was being brave.
She was.
I think like a big part of it too, guys, like I've read this book a ton of times now. It is so funny to me to imagine her spazzing her arm, knocking the trophy, laughing, and then someone who doesn't have words to express her opinions. Imagine the power move that she's in her wheelchair and all the kids are staring at her, and she just turns her wheelchair around and just zooms out the door. Like, that is such a power move. If any of you guys had, that's like someone storming out of class. But how drama is it for her to just roll? She has to slowly just, and I just think it's so powerful to imagine.
It is.
Yeah,
Joe, do you agree?
they did a really good job. The author did a really good job here, I think, painting a picture for us and giving us a mental image, like Miss Green was saying, because as I was reading it, I could actually see it in my mind. That mental image was really, really strong because of the choice of words.
It would be such a great scene to watch in a movie. Like, if they made Out of My Mind a movie, that scene would just be like, boom, she just rolled out. Like, that is good.
Well, and there was a part there even when one of the other kids, I think it was Connor maybe, and because of how much she was sticking up for herself, he even was like, oh, snap, you know?
Yeah.
So, really, really, I think a lot of detail in this chapter that I really appreciated. So we could get a real good picture of exactly what was happening. So, all right. So let me go back to our little PowerPoint. All right. So here is your assignment for this chapter. Okay. So I really wanted to focus a lot about on the laughing. Okay. Because when I was reading this, I didn't know for my very first time, of course, I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. And it really took me by surprise that Melody started laughing. I figured she would stick up for herself. I kind of could predict that was what was coming. but the fact that she started laughing took me by surprise. So from everything that you know so far, I want you to infer why you think Melody started laughing at the end of the chapter. How do you think Melody was feeling after she confronted her teammates? Okay, so that is going to be our reader's response for this chapter. So I'm going to give you a minute or two to get that down, especially if you're live. But I know this will be posted as well, so you can go back and find it if you need to. But I want us to make a real good inference using our text evidence and everything that we've learned about Melody so far, everything we've learned about her teammates. And I want you to figure out and infer why you think she might have been laughing and how was she feeling after she confronted her teammates. Going back to what Miss Green said, how she just kind of turned her wheelchair around and rolled herself out. Like it's an exact good comparison. That would be like somebody telling somebody off and then storming out of the room. So that tells us a lot, that not only did she tell them how she felt, she laughed and then in her way stormed out of the room.
I'm going to go ahead and pause that recording there, but we'll see you the last chapters next. Woo!
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Thanks for coming.